Well, for those of you who have not heard this story before, I want to share it again. I want to share the story of when the last Abundant Life team came out. While they were here, we decided to take them way up north. We went to a community that we don't often take visitors to, and it's a long drive. And I remember on the drive up, I remember passing some communities, and in several of these communities, there were great signs as you came in, you know, like the Welcome to Grunthal kind of sign. But instead of just saying Welcome to Grunthal, it would say, Welcome to Grunthal, a random organization-sponsored community. Welcome to Kleefeld, sponsored by the government of whatever. And we began to notice that there's been a lot of groups, there's been a lot of Christian organizations who all do wonderful things, who've been to these places before, and they've poured in a lot of money, and they've, like I said, they've done some incredible things. We saw hospitals, we saw clinics, we saw schools, we saw all sorts of great things happen because of these things. And so we knew that there had been a lot of money that had come through. And so the question is, what set our team apart? What set the Abundant Life group apart? And I want to tell you what it was. The thing that set us apart was this ministry of presence. While we were there, we did a lot of stuff. I think the biggest thing that we did was we went to houses where widows didn't have, they had leprosy, they didn't have fingers or toes, and they couldn't take care of themselves. And we took the grass, the traditional grass off their houses, and we put roofs on it. Now, we didn't put those fancy roofs that most organizations would put on, those nice metal roofs and brand new houses. No, I went up with a big roll of plastic, like builder's poly, and we went up there and we took all the old grass off and we put new grass on. We put plastic on, and over that plastic we put new grass. And that's what we did. And if you looked at it, it cost that team thousands of dollars to get from Canada all the way up to this little community. And when they finally got there, what did we do? We put $250 worth of plastic on a couple roofs. But we did it in person. And everybody knows that with that kind of money, I could have probably built 3 or 4 houses, the same kind of houses that all those other communities that were sponsored by these organizations had put up. And yet we didn't. We came and we worked alongside. And the reason for coming with a team to work alongside was the ministry of presence. We wanted to come alongside pastors. We wanted to come alongside churches and say, look, here's something that you can do that can continue even when we're gone. And that's exactly what happened. Even when we were gone, even later on when we left, and when I've run into these pastors again, and when they come for training, the one thing that they tell us is, we continue to put roofs on houses. But you see, that's not the biggest difference. I remember that just before this team left, we sat down with the pastor, and he came and he was sharing, and the thing he told us is this. He said, it was a miracle what happened here. And I'll tell you what, I'm a missionary, and I always seem very excited, but deep down I'm a bit of a skeptic. And so when somebody says there was a miracle, I have to ask this question, what was the miracle? What made this more special than everything else? And honestly, I asked him, and I took him aside and I said, Pastor, I hear you say this was a miracle, but how's this? We didn't even do nearly as much as building a school like those other organizations do. We didn't build houses, we didn't build clinics. How is this going to be a miracle? And the answer amazed me. He said, you're right. Lots of people have come. There have been lots of people who have come and taken a picture of our poverty and saw what was going on, and they've left money with the government to help make a difference. He said, but you are the first time we have seen God's love in action in our community. People have came and been part of this ministry of presence and been active in their community alongside of them. And that is what makes a ministry of presence. When you're building a house and a funeral procession comes by with a little 3-year-old child who can't weigh more than 10 pounds, and the family comes and says, hey, Caleb, can you help carry this coffin? Now, I know Caleb's a buff guy, but he wasn't needed to carry the coffin. He was needed for his compassion. He was needed just for his presence. So that as these people went, they knew that there was a member of the Church of Canada carrying their child during this difficult time. When we had a house collapse, there were many people we could have hired to rebuild it, but the miracle was when we saw these girls who literally plastered the building with their hands till they were raw, until they were blistered. And the community realized these people love us. Money could have fixed this problem, but love does so much more. And I realized very quickly that the ministry of presence holds a lot of power. Calloused hands and bruised bodies are far more powerful than the largest of checks that a person can send. And the same thing is true there in Grunthal. The same thing is true wherever you live. That a ministry of presence will change the people around you. In Grunthal, we say we want Grunthal 100% for God. And if that's true, we need to make sure that everyone in Grunthal, everyone in our church needs to be 100% present in our community. We need to make an effort to change our community by being in relationship with everybody we meet. How do we do that? We can do that by shoveling driveways. And as you shovel a driveway, people say, look, it's not just a church that preaches, it's a church that loves. We can go out there and we can take a day on a Saturday and say, look, we're going to winterize all these Swiss cheese style trailers at the trailer court that are freezing and are going through hundreds of dollars a month just on air that's blowing out. We can go there and we can serve. For goodness sakes, we can take all of our hunting tags and we can fill every single tag we have, and instead of just going out there and not shooting something this year, even though you have a tag because you didn't see the big buck, we can go out there like a bunch of rednecks, we can shoot and fill every single one of our tags that we have. And you know what? There will not be a hungry person in Grunthal with all the free meat that we give out every single year. You see, there's always something that we can do in a ministry of presence. We can go to the hospital and we can visit. Maybe you say, look, I want to go to the hospital, but I don't know what to say. And I'm going to tell you something, you don't need to say anything. That's the beauty of a ministry of presence, is that there's people who need you, and all that you have to do is show up and be there and be the love. I want to tell you something, everybody expects a visit when they're in the hospital. Now, they don't expect you to visit, they expect the pastor to visit. And they expect it because, yes, they know the church loves them, because the church has hired a man, a pastor, to come and visit them. But true love, the true power of that pastor's message is when the pastor's long gone, he's gone to visit somebody else, you show up. And you say, hey, I just want to sit with you. I just want to pray with you. You see, the ministry of presence isn't just through the pastor, it's through the people showing up. It changes lives. Another thing that we forget as we're planning short-term trips is that Jesus owns the cattle on 1,000 hilltops. God doesn't rely on our money. Yes, He wants us to give. He asks us to give incredibly generously. But at the end of the day, it's still His money. You see, what the Bible says that we're lacking isn't money. What the Bible says that we're lacking is people. In Luke 10 verse 2, Jesus says the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. You see, God is asking you to serve by being present, by being the worker who goes out to the field to make a difference. Now I can go on and on about all that you can do. I have a long sermon that would be great in person about the ministry of presence, but the truth is, I think I'm running out of megabytes that I can upload here in the African bush. And so I'm going to try and shorten it down and keep it quick for you here. There is nothing more as powerful as a relationship. Just like when we do Alpha, we say, bring somebody that you know. But you need to get out there to the community, as the Bible says, the highways and byways, and you need to be like Jesus, and you need to get to know people. We need to build a ministry of presence in Grunthal or wherever you live. You need to be helping the hurting, clothing those who have no clothes, visiting people in the hospital, and you need to be feeding the hungry. That's exactly what we read in Matthew 25, verse 31 to 46. It is important to be active financially. The mission field does need your money. But as much as we need your money out here in Africa, you are also needed in presence. The church across the world needs you to be present and to be active in relationship. And so I'm going to encourage you this week and this month to make it your primary goal to be present in the ministries that you do. Let's make a plan to be present with our family. You see, many people say, I'm home with my kids all the time. Yes, but are you actually present? Have you put away your computer? Have you put away your stuff? And are you playing games? Are you going quadding? Are you visiting? Are you singing? Are you dancing? Are you doing all those things that families can do together? Make it a point this week of being present with your family. Let's make it a point here in Grunthal. Let's make it a point anywhere that you're sitting right now, is that this week we're going to make a difference in our community by being present. Let's start running programs and planning programs that get out into the community. Let's start setting budgets that focus on helping those who are in need. Let's start doing what the verses say and feed the hungry and visit the sick. And finally, let's make a plan to be present in our world. Let's be present in our world by sending and supporting teams such as this Abundant Life team that's coming out. Let's support them financially in our prayers, and let's help them make it here. Because it's their presence here that gives the ministry that I'm doing power. Just like when you visit somebody in the hospital, you're giving power to the message of the pastor. When you send a team, you're giving power to the message of the long-term missionary. And so let's be present in our world by sending these teams and supporting them. Finally, I want you to know something. I want you to know how incredibly grateful and happy we are for our church that has chosen and committed to be present in our lives. And we want to ask and continue to pray for you to do that on a continuous basis. And we're so excited for the relationship that we are growing in our church. And if you're watching this and you're from another church, and I want you to know that you can be present in our lives. And we want to just thank everybody out there who's committed to daily praying for us. I want to thank you for that this morning. In God's precious name, thank you.